Hello, I thought I'd share my current calisthenics skills workout. This is pretty intermediate to maybe a little bit advanced. And this is what I'm currently doing for skills. On top of that, I'm doing a strength, also body weight workout. If you're interested in that, let me know. But this is what I do for skills. Please enjoy. I usually start with a wrist warm-up, which includes just moving my wrists around, palms open, palms closed, putting them in various ranges of motion with very little load, like most of the load is currently on my knees, adding some finger stretches, and then obviously I'll do this a bit slower, and then adding some heavier load while moving the wrists around, and I'll do this for about 10 minutes, which I'll do now. Next, I'll do 5 sets of handstand shapes I want to work on. And a lot of times I'll actually start on the wall, lean away from the wall, find the balance. I don't want to move my camera now, so I'll just show a few here, but I'll work on things like the tuck, I'll work on straight, I'll work on straddle, I'll work on diamond, just various ways of moving my legs while maintaining the balance and practicing that. Although in these sets, I'm trying to continuously improve, so I'll look at my videos while I'm resting between sets to check various things in my form that I want to work on and improve. I don't consider these sets like where I'm really pushing myself. So after I'm done, I'll do 5 sets of movements where I'm really pushing myself. Right now, it's shifting on fingertips for one arm. So this will look something like this. I'll get into a straddle, and then I'll try to shift some weight on one arm, try to stay elevated and try to shift on fingertips, hold that for a bit, and then come back, and then try, of course, the other side, hold that for a bit, and come back. I'll try to do a bit longer and fine-tune a little bit, remove these wobbles, and I'll do that 5 times. And although I just said that these are the skills where I'm pushing myself, I meant pushing myself in terms of coordination, not in actual strength. So then I'll move on to the skills where I'm pushing myself in terms of coordination and in terms of strength. For this today, it's going to be straddle planche. So I'll get into my deepest tuck, prepare my shoulders, prepare my wrists, and just go for it. Hold as much as I can. And come down, and I'll do 5 sets of these. Now, a lot of times, by the 3rd or 4th or 5th, I'm way too tired to do these, so I might move on to the tuck planche, or I might move on to the rubber bands, so I'll show how that works. So for this one, I'm using a low bar. A high bar is generally nicer for this movement. In a low bar, I'll double up the band, whereas in a high bar, if it's available, I'll use a single version of the band, but it will have the same effect because it's higher up. So take that in mind. I'll go inside of the loop. I'll put it on my hips, and I'll just try to get into the straddle planche from here. And by now, I'm tired enough that even with the band, it feels as hard as well, not as hard, it is lighter, but it feels almost as hard as the planche without the rubber band. Next, I will go for the front lever, and this will follow the same idea as what we did with the planche. But instead of straddle, I'll try to go for the full front level first, maybe a little bit of a straddle without the rubber band, and by the 3rd, 4th, or 5th set, I'll use the rubber band. Front lever is way easier if you start from the top. If you're working on a high bar, what I'll do is I'll pull up first and then enter from there. It's just way easier than lifting, especially if you're not doing tuck. So also another way is lifting in a tuck and then expanding. So I'll go for my first set. And then for the other sets, I'll do more straddle and then a rubber band. So let's do one straddle without the band, and then I'll show how to use the band. So straddle, Notice I always try to go back to a tuck and then go from there. And for the bend, I'll loop it around my hips if I'm using a low bar, or my feet and the bar if I'm using a high bar. Whenever I can loop it around my hips, it feels more like the actual thing, so I prefer to do that. So I grab it around the knuckles, loop it under the hips, and just climb up like before. And finally, I'll do a few back bends, usually 4 to 5 sets. And these can be very simple seated back bend to just do the spine portion. They can also be this version of a back bend where I also involve the hips, and sometimes not usually in the same set, but I guess we'll do them now. I'll also involve the shoulders by going into the wheel pose and stretching my shoulders as well. Now, quick tip about the back bends. You noticed I was talking during, and that's usually a good way to measure whether or not you're tensing. You don't want to do this and then come here. This is going to be your front abdominals muscles working against your spinal extension and usually causes spasms or pain. And it's really hard to come from the position into the relaxed position. It's kind of easy when you know what it's like. My tip is to, if you find yourself tensing, just restart the movement, and wherever you tense, stop. It's easy to try to rush to the next step, but I found that whenever you stop worrying about the next step and embrace the step you're currently on, the next step comes up very easily. And that's honestly pretty much it. I then do a set of 10 minutes for hamstring stretches that I sometimes skip, honestly, and a lot of twists. I'm not going to include them here, but if you want to see what those are like, let me know and I'll post a separate video.